Hi everyone, welcome back to another SimplePlanes video. In this video, I will be continuing my development of the Flight Management Computer, or FMC, on the SWL-120. So, let's get started. In my last video, I explained how the Flight Management Computer works, so I recommend you go and watch that video if you haven't already, because otherwise you won't understand a lot of the content in this video, because I'm really going to be building upon what I did in my last video, because this is part 2 of working on the Flight Management Computer. And in this video, I want to do a few things. I want to make it so you can actually type stuff into all of these inputs, and I also want to add a lot of the other screens. Because currently, you just go to a blank page with a return option. That's literally it. The flowchart for the Flight Management Computer has changed quite a bit since my last video. It is now fully finished, at least somewhat. I'm going to look at the waypoints later in the video. And I think I'm just going to start explaining it from the homepage. So the homepage, which has the number value of 0, like the homepage, that's all there is to it. And then it has the state subpages. And then the flight plan page, that was the only page which I worked on in my last video. And I've also added some more pages to this. So you have a flight plans page underneath the flight plan page. Doesn't really make sense, but it's sort of there. So the flight plan page is like you're planning out everything in your flight, at least most of it. Then the flight plans page, which is underneath, not underneath, it's like a subpage of the flight plan page, has your individual flight plans where you can store a list of waypoints to fly to. So each of these 5 different pages is the same. I mapped out one of these because it just says the exact same thing. So this is what is it? So this is 1, 2, 3. This is a 4th level page, and then these are 5th level pages. I put them on as the same level, even though they're technically after one another. So if you click next page on here, it will actually take you to the next one, then next page go and take you to the next one, and so on. I left them at the same level because they're sort of at the same level. Sort of hard to explain, but we'll get to coding them in later. I don't think I can really explain all the meaning behind all of this, but I understand it. If you want to have a look at this, then I'm just gonna move around it. You can pause the video. And then you have the takeoff page with some takeoff options. It's sort of self-explanatory. It's you have a page, and then you have some options, and you can either have a list some information, or you can have an option, so you can just click to change, or you have inputs, where you type something in and put it in. I'm going to focus on the waypoints page for now. This is the sub-page of the home page, and I'm not really sure how many screens it's going to have. It's going to have a few, but I'm not really sure how many. I've got the idea planned out. So you have custom waypoints or default waypoints. A waypoint is a point on a map which marked down with a set of coordinates, or maybe not, and it's really just a point, it's just a marker really. Now in flying, and definitely a few other use cases, they are useful for mapping out a flight plan to automatically fly to, or just to fly to yourself manually. So I've got a few waypoints mapped out in another file, and I'm actually going to redo a lot of these. This is an old waypoint map, and I've learned a bit more about how waypoints work and how the flight plan would work. So I'm going to redo almost all of these. I'm also going to add support for some mod airports, which I'm going to talk about now, I guess. In SimplePlanes, you can add mods to the game, which I've got quite a few of. And there are some mods which add extra airports to the base map in the game. There are 3 airports which I'm going to support in my complex waypoint system. And those airports are Cape Breton Airport, Xingshan, I have no idea how to pronounce that, Xingshan International Airport, and one of the many Mayway airports. And the way I'm going to deal with this is I'm going to have an option in the setup page that's not what the setup page actually does in real life, but anyway. So I use the setup page to allow you to enable or disable support in the system for each of these airports. So if something is disabled, then the system will pretend it doesn't even exist. No waypoints are shown or can be used. Nothing's in the system. If it's enabled, then the system will have those waypoints for use. And if you try to type in information for those waypoints and other systems like the ILS, then it will use those fine. So for ILS, if the airport's disabled and you type in a frequency for one of those airport runways, then it'll just act as if it doesn't exist and the frequency is nothing. So that brings us to the waypoints again. There's too much there's so many things to explain. So for custom waypoints, these allow you to type in your own waypoints, so you can put in any 6-character string for the name, and then you can type in the latitude and longitude. I'd just like to point out here, I actually have no idea how I'm going to code the backend for a lot of this. I'm just planning this out, knowing that my future self will suffer, just because I want to have this function realistically. So now I'm going to do these waypoints. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to have a craft which can get from Wright Airport to Eagle Airport in approximately, 8 seconds in real life time, to fly around the entire map and check out what latitude and longitude I'm at when I want to make a waypoint. So I have debug expression latitude and longitude, and then when I'm at, say, an airport, for example, Eagle Airport, this is, this is not the actual location, but anyway, say I want to make a waypoint here, I just note down the coordinates that are up here, and then in my waypoint map, where is 0, actually? I don't actually know how I made this waypoint map, so I'm going to make a new waypoint map. So the first thing I need to do is figure out how many meters the new map, because the old map doesn't have Zinshan, I'm still not pronouncing that correctly, International Airport, which is, for realism purposes, very far out. I'm not sure if I'm going to find it. Actually, you know what? I can just use my location. What? Okay, here we are. So longitude is actually 300,000 meters, which is 300 kilometers. So I need to make my waypoint map. I'm just going to get out far. I'm going to make my waypoint map range from 400,000 in the longitude range to, and we go all the way back to the Wright Airport. I'll make longitude go to negative 100,000. Latitude's going to range from, what's the farthest airport? And it's pretty far out, but I'll make it go from negative 100,000 to, you know what, I'm going to make it positive 300,000, because just make it square. I kinda do have to use this square because of how I'm going to do the coordinates. Wait, that's how it works. So the coordinates for any airport in this map are going from 0, 0 in this 3D modeling. Well, not like 3D, it's more like 2D modeling. What was I even saying? So all of the coordinates for these waypoints are mapped out as if this is 0, 0, this 0 axis in my 2D model. What I'll do instead is I'll just make a perfect copy of that waypoint map, and I can do whatever I want with it. So I'll just delete all of this. I have the original, so I can just revert to it if I have to. And then I'll make a new square. So latitude is negative 100,000. Same for longitude. Then 300,000 and 300,000. Then I can just complete the square. That's somehow not a perfect square. Huh, it's only 500,000. There we go. A perfect square. I'll just have to type it in manually. And there we go. And with this, I can now start actually adding waypoints. So it's pretty simple. So say I find a waypoint. This is not an actual waypoint, I'm just going to pick a random location. So say this is a waypoint. So I want my latitude to be negative 14,000. I'm going to round up to hundreds. And then my longitude is 1300. So what I do is I go for longitude, that would be this way, 1300. It's actually quite close to 0, 0. And then my latitude is negative 14,000. I probably could have just gone off here, so got there, 14,000. And then this spot here is our waypoint. I think I'll just put in a small circle It's a really small circle, but you can't really see it when you zoom all the way out. Then to identify what this is, then get some text. Guess we'll just do about there. And then I'm just going to call this waypoint test 12, I don't know, test 12 I guess. And then I'm going to do it latitude, longitude. So the latitude is that negative 14,000, and the longitude is 1300. And then I repeat until I have every single waypoint that I want to have.
6.5 hours later.
And now that has been done. The waypoints are pretty self-explanatory. You have your 6-character code, then you have latitude and longitude. You may have noticed I've changed the general outline of the square. That's because this view is much better for actually viewing each of the waypoints in a single image. Whereas this view, that's not the right one, this one, is not as easy to see. And also, I've added in waypoints, not like waypoints, but more like just identifiers for each of the runway locations, just so I can view all the runway thresholds for the ILS eventually. I'm not going to talk about the ILS in this video because it's a whole video in itself, but that will be something I'm going to work on in a future video. So this is like the original map, which has all of the waypoints and runway threshold locations in one area, which I can zoom in and see them. Then this is the one that I'm actually going to be putting in the SWL-120's handbook on how to fly it. And yes, that will be a thing. There's just too much information to explain. So with these waypoints, I can now go ahead and create my waypoint database. It's not as complex as it sounds. I just go into, say, the center panel, and then I just delete these. So these are left over from the old system. Some of these are the same, like the names, but almost all of the actual coordinates are different. So the way this is going to work is I'm just going to delete all these for now. Say I want to put in the waypoint Vicon, which means right connection. It's just a short way of saying it. All of these names mean sort of something, like May Wat means Maywar West Approach for that airport. May Land means, that's just another way of saying approach, so Maywar Land, I guess. Jinkon, I still can't pronounce that, means Jinshan Connection. So it's like a connection waypoint, so it's just in the middle of the ocean. They all have some form of meaning, not just like random names. So anyway, say I'm going to map out Vicon, which is right connection. I note these coordinates, and then I create two different variables. I have Vicon latitude, and then Vicon longitude. And then I put in the function each of these numbers. So the latitude for Vicon is 11,657, so 11,657. Same for the longitude, which is 6019. I leave everything else the same because the activator just sets it once to make sure there's less calculations going on. Although I'm not sure if that happens because it's still calculating something, so it's like calculating if time is less than 1. So I think I'm just going to delete the activator because this is like a static database. So I'll just leave it like that. And then say for another one, for example, there's another one called Air, which is right airport. So I change that to Air. Then do the same for the latitude and longitude. So that is negative 4389, and the longitude is the same, 6019. So I'm just going to repeat until I have all the waypoints in this database.
20 minutes later.
And that has been done. I also added in the custom waypoints, which there are going to be 4 of. The original version of this waypoint system was going to have 6 custom waypoints, but I'm going to make it 4 because that's all my waypoint system, at least I've mapped out, will allow for. I could always add another page, but I think I'm just going to leave it at 2 pages, so 2 per page, so 4 waypoints total, just because it won't really need to add more than like 4. In real life you can't really define waypoints, you have a whole database of them, but I just added this so you can have a little more control over where you're flying. What we can also do is add in all of the waypoints from our database into these pages here, which will also tell me how many pages I'm going to have. I feel like it might be more than 4 pages, but we'll see. That took longer than I expected it to, and I now have 2 more pages than I thought I would have. While doing this, I also realized that I need to figure out how I'm going to have the extra like mod airport waypoints show up in the waypoint pages. So the way I did this is I put all of the default, like this is going to be always there no matter what options you have enabled or disabled, waypoints first. And this is kind of an alphabetic order, but it's not really if you have all the other ones in there. And then in order of them showing up on here, so you have Cape Town first, then Jinshan, then Maywar. They show up here in somewhat alphabetical order. So the 3 Cape waypoints are in alphabetical order, same for the however many Jinshan waypoints. So on for Maywar. And then I'm going to treat the computer waypoints as a mod as well, just so it's easier to code. Because if you're playing on mobile, islands such as Maywar Island, not the airport, just the island, and Snowstone Island are not in the game. So I added them as like a 4th mod. It's not really a mod, but anyway. But I think that's all I'm going to do in this video. I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to leave it here. And in my next video, I'm definitely going to add these pages into the flight management computer, and maybe, hopefully, get the input system working. So I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!